It's spinning. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Unfiltered Rise. We're coming at you with a live edition today because Ben McClintock is amazing, and he does this quite often. He talks about all this corruption in Utah, and I thought, you know what? Why not? Let's just do it live. This will be fun. So, hopefully, you guys are catching us out there on the stream. If you're seeing us on X, go give Ben some love. He's on there as well, treeoflibertysociety.com as well. So, go follow him, and you're going to want to because we're going to talk about some stuff today that until I heard Ben on a random act of God, probably, I had never heard of this ever in my life. So Ben, how are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me. Good to be with you.
Good to have you here. Yeah, this has been awesome. I just couldn't believe that there were, I mean, of course, there's secret societies in the world, but I never knew to what extent, right? This was kind of surprising. And this one I've never even heard about. So you're here to tell us a little bit about this very strange club that
Yeah.
I've never heard about.
So the same thing, I've been looking into secret societies for like 25 years. And so we know the normal ones, the Skull and Bones, the Bohemian Grove, those types of things people talk about. But you have your Alex Joneses and your John Birch Society groups that will talk about secret societies and the fact that we face a conspiracy. But when I came across this, it was really weird because it was the first time that I came across it was a headline on one of Utah's biggest mainstream, conspiracy controlled media, KSL. And they had this article, and then the headline was literally Romney is president of a secret society in Washington. That was their headline. And I was like, okay,
wow,
piqued my interest. And and so I looked into it. It's called the Alfalfa Club, as you can see in the screen we have up here. And the Alfalfa Club, it was very difficult to find information on. It was always called a secret society. Everybody calls it a secret society. But even like on the Wikipedia page and almost every other article that talks about it, it's a secret society, and its only purpose is to celebrate the birthday of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. That's the end of it.
And that's it. Okay.
And that's it. But nobody talks about, I've never heard Alex Jones talk about it. I've never, your typical conspiracy central people. I'm like, what's going on here? Why is nobody talking about this? As I dig into it, and it's because it's probably because it's very difficult to find anything about it. But of the public information we have, it made me say that's baloney, even though I didn't have any evidence, right? I didn't go forward. I didn't go public and say, hey, we know this is a secret society, da, 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 da. But but when I was digging into it, I was like, this is baloney, because why do you have Barack Obama going to a celebration of a Confederate General, Robert E. Lee? That makes no sense on the surface level, and why isn't the mainstream media calling all these people a bunch of racists? Because it's full of people like, you have presidents, former presidents, senators, people that are in, high levels of academia, high levels of business. And it is so elite. It is limited to about 200 people. And it is by invitation only. If, it's like those, fancy restaurants, if you need to know the price, you can't afford it. It's that same type of an
oh no.
If you're going to apply, you're not welcome. That's just not a thing.
There's the door. Here's your sign.
And so this is next level secret society type stuff. It's very Bohemian Grove is a very similar, or Bohemian Club, very similar, where it's invitation only. There's no applying. It's not like the CFR where you can apply and you can get a sponsor and that kind of stuff. It is literally invitation only. So why is it so secretive? Why is it so hard to get into? Why does anybody care? Why do these people of such high society care? Why do they care about celebrating a birthday of this Confederate general? And why is nobody in the corporate media saying anything about it? Meaning because KSL, obviously I found out about it because of a mainstream article, but they didn't say, oh, look at these racists celebrating the birthday of a Confederate general. It was just it was just ho-hum. this is just a matter of fact. This is what they did. And then they just moved on. It was just nothing else. It's a secret society. And there's nothing else. The headline in KSL said Mitt Romney, Republican, so at the time he was the senator from Utah, U.S. senator, has been named the president of the Alfalfa Club in Washington, D.C. He has been a member of the secret society, which includes politicians, business leaders, and billionaires since 2015. Romney takes over from another former Massachusetts politician, John Kerry. So it's Republicans and Democrats, just like all the other ones that they on the, out in the public, they pretend to be enemies, but behind closed doors, they're best buds. And so it just reminds me of Carol Quigley's statement in Tragedy and Hope, where he says the two parties should be almost identical so that the American people can throw the rascals out at any election without leading to any profound or extensive shifts in policy. So just like a traditional, WWF wrestling match, these guys pretend to be enemies in the public, but behind the scenes, they're best buds.
And they're meanwhile tearing down all these statues and having fits and causing riots. But they're having dinner. We're still doing dinner. Dinner's fine, apparently.
Yeah, Mitt Romney that says that he loves Antifa, right? He loves Antifa and he's okay with them tearing down Confederate statues, but he's the head of an organization that's celebrating a Confederate's birthday. That doesn't make sense.
No, that doesn't.
I was digging. I was like, what's going on? Why don't we have more information? Why that doesn't make sense? And I just kept digging and digging and digging and digging until I found an article where it referenced a biography of an autobiography of the organization. And I was like, okay, this is something I can go off of. And oh wait, there's just a reference to it. I can't find it anywhere. There's no rare booksellers selling copies of the book. There's no archive.org doesn't have scans of the book, but there was this obscure, and I think it was Pennsylvania university that actually had it in their collections, and they scanned it and sent me a copy.
Oh.
And so I was able to read their autobiography that tells us whether it's true or not. That to me is secondary, but whether it's true or not it's the fact that this is what they believe about themselves.
Right.
And what makes me believe, and so as you read it, you're like, is this satire? Is it because it's a little bit out there?
It's a little off the cuff.
A little off the cuff.
So for those that have just tuned in, you guys, he's going to talk about what the Alfalfa Club, a secret society you've never heard about, it actually thinks about themselves. So
it's pretty wild. So this is before also, right? This is written in just right there in the beginning stages of World War I. So 1919 is when this is published amongst themselves. It's not like published and they put it in whatever the 1919 edition, version of Barnes and Noble is. Right. This isn't out there going in the Sears catalog and going out to everybody in America. This is just published among themselves in 1919. And it was written by a congressman. Not a congressman, sorry. His name is H. Ralph Burton, and he was involved in Congress. He was a special investigator for the House Appropriations Committee in charge of New York City and state. He was a special investigator for the Senate Campaign Expenditures Committee. He was a general counsel to the House Military Affairs Committee, chief investigator for the Senate Committee on Post Office and Civil Service, general counsel for the House Select Committee on Current Pornographic Materials, founding member of the National Press Club, National Union for Social Justice. Okay. So he's not some just, whack job off in the woods somewhere.
He's up there. Okay.
He is in the elite. He's a part of the elite. And this is 1919, decades before conspiracy stuff becomes popular. This is kind of a lull where you have in the beginning of America, you have, the founding fathers circulating books like Proofs of a Conspiracy by James Robeson and things like that. And then you have kind of this, you go into the 1800s and you have this lull where nobody's really talking about conspiracy. And so in 1919, this book is published. So, when you're reading, you're like, is this something, is this a troll? Is this a joke? Is this something to be disinformation, so that people reading this will think about it and then think this is true, and then it's really something else. Well, so my belief is that this is really what they believe about themselves because of several things that they say about themselves, which I'm going to get into in a minute. But there's no John Birch this time. There's no Alex Jones um, to try and feed false information. This isn't in the lexicon. The people aren't hearing about this organization and getting this book and talking about it. And so that, to me, that idea doesn't make any sense. To me, this is all the evidence leads towards it being something published among themselves. It's what they believe about themselves. It's a legitimate self, internal publication to let the insiders know what their history is, because every organization likes to have a history, whether they're claiming to be ancient history, and they date back, thousands of years, or whether they claim to, be something that's a refreshment of something that's thousands of years old. They want to have connection to antiquity. And so that is something that they are trying to promote amongst themselves. Heidi, did you have?
Yeah. I was just going to say this antiquity isn't just regular antiquity. This is Egyptian.
Oh, yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Yes. And so they claim to be the oldest club in existence. Okay. And it dating back, as you said, to Egypt. And what's another interesting point that I think leads to its not being a troll publication, but what it says is that it was, quote, it was the Colonel Edward Mandell House of the olden days. And so the average person back then, what is your average Joe doesn't know what that means. Only people on the inside would get that reference. It's not until the 1970s when his book, Philip Drew Administrator, becomes mainstream, and it's published and exposed by people that are exposing the international conspiracy. And so what they're saying amongst themselves is that they know that Colonel Edward Mandell House is the power behind the throne, and that they're admitting it, and then that they're saying that that's what they are. They are the power behind the throne throughout millennia, is what.
And so they're doing all of this, and they're talking about Egypt, and that they're practicing. They specifically say they're practicing these Egyptian rites, right?
Exactly.
Well, how magical of them. How magical of them. No wonder they keep it very secret.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Even in this, they don't publish what those secrets are. And they claim that their documents, they're like, are these secrets that we have, these ancient mysteries that we have, these are what all of the wars throughout history were about obtaining. They're like, yeah, the current war, World War I, this is about, because this is the Kaiser wants to get our secrets. We know, the Trojan War, that's because they wanted to get our secrets, right? You just think of every major war throughout history, and they're saying that it was because and they list several of them throughout history. They're like, yes, this war was not about what the public face was about. It was about getting our secrets.
Wow, that's actually interesting to know that there were like World War factions going about after these particular secrets. That takes this to a whole nother level, really. That's kind of frightening in a way.
Right. They said themselves, like, anybody that gets these secrets rules the world. And so they're admitting, we rule the world right now because we have the secrets, and these guys are trying to steal it from us so they can rule the world.
Wow. So do you know who their current president is by chance? I know Romney was.
They reelect a new one, every single year. But I haven't seen anything new for who the most current one. They meet in January, so we're about a month away from their next meeting. And so folks, keep your eyes out to see if anybody's covering who the new president is. But it's, this is,
and once you're in, right?
Yeah.
Once you're in. Okay. So Romney's still in. So, and we were talking a little about him before we went live, and his family and just the different things there. oh boy, he's a treasure trove. And look, I pick on the Mormons because I used to be one. He's picking on the Mormons. He's not. He's picking on the state and the secret combinations. So I think it's important for him to actually explain his view on this because we come from a little bit different places. Ben, I'll let you share that.
Oh,
Kind of your
so
background. Yeah.
yeah, so this is a satanic conspiracy that we face. I mean, that's just all there is to it. And so people that we talked about this in our other program about how this wherever the concentration of power is, that's the organizations that they're going to try and influence and have the most impact on. Because in places like Utah, if you infiltrate the Unitarians and the Democrats, that's not going to give you a whole lot of power.
Right.
Same
Right.
thing. If you're in New York City, if you infiltrate the Constitution Party and the Mormons, how much power is that going to? It's none, zero, zilch. And so
Right.
wherever you're at is where they're looking for. Okay, what are the two? In religion and government and academia, what are those? What organizations in that circle has the most influence in that geographic area, and that's where they're going to go after them. And so, I don't people want to
Well,
say it's the Jews and it's the this and the that, but I think it's it's much higher than that, because just like people are going to claim it's a Mormon conspiracy, I would say, well, your average old lady that's knitting in the pews is not a part of this conspiracy. And
no, no,
there are,
she
and
definitely
that's
is
not to
not.
dismiss the fact that is a higher percentage of certain groups of people in certain areas, but that's true. That's just, but that doesn't mean that every single person in that institution is a knowing part of it, if that makes sense. You can have
Right.
influence beyond the norm without having every single person involved in that institution be aware of it.
I mean, it's just very interesting. Shout out Jeremy. Hey, Jeremy. I just think it's very interesting that people can't see that the answer is yes. The answer is it's all of them. Like, yes, it's the Jesuits have a
Right.
history of working with the satanic elite, which is what I'm going to call them, of the Mormons, because it's not the Mormons. Like people think I'm picking on these people when it's not. That's not what if you go to the body of the church, that's not your regular people, like Ben was saying. Like he still
Right.
believes, and that's why I'm being very specific today, because I have my own beef with the ideology, but that's not what we're here for today. We're here about how this was infiltrated.
Right.
And there's been many people tried to talk about the infiltration from a very early on era, and you know people just didn't listen. I really have seen this. LDS abuse brings this up. We get into skull and bones from this. Secret societies are a problem because once you have an oath with a brother or a sister, it doesn't have to be male, although many of them are. It's just the fact that they will do anything to be a part of this, and how Romney died. Like, I mean, his dad.
Oh yeah, George. Yeah.
Whoa. I mean,
I've got my
whoa.
own suspicions of that, but I don't know if we want to get into that, because that's,
Oh,
yeah, people still
yeah.
alive and that might be considered slander or libel or whatever it
Well,
is.
we could say what we think about it because
What we
this is
believe, sure.
entertainment
Yeah, okay.
purposes. Sure.
But
And
so
and
along those lines, I think that a part of the conspiracy, once you get initiated into it, is that you have to sacrifice someone that you are close to and that you love. And so that's
yep.
what I'll say about that.
Yep, yep. It's and the hunting clubs that become evident,
Oh yeah.
like he was very involved in some very interesting clubs. And when I was researching this yesterday, I even ran into, I'm sure you saw the post on X, another club, and it's another hunting club, and Alan is a part of this one, Alan Romney, which big surprise.
Yeah.
It's the St. Hubertus. Did you see
I
that
didn't
one
see
as
that one.
well? And so, I'm just saying, like, these people are very involved in some very strange things. And so clearly they're in
Well,
the
and
club.
Mitt's mom in the 60s, right? Mitt's mom, a Republican in the 60s, that's a Mormon, that's advocating for abortion.
Yeah,
That's
that doesn't make sense.
that's weird.
Right. And his mom is I think her name was Piedad, I think, was it? Or no,
I don't
is that
remember
the
her name
grandma?
actually.
There's one that's very interesting. Her history is actually very interesting, and this gets into elites everywhere. Look, this conspiracy wouldn't even be a conspiracy in Utah. There would be no secret combinations if this didn't branch out, and it did so into other factions of religion. It did.
Oh,
They all came together. The like you said, the Jesuits, the Jews, the Mormons, the
yeah.
everybody, and it's this top elite percentage that you don't know what they're doing. Clearly, we don't.
Well, and there's
I
stuff
mean,
that gets out there, and that's my book Invasion talks about that, and
yes.
there is information that we can know about and that we can document and that we can prove. This isn't theories, and we're like putting magical ideas together that could be true and could be not true. We can find out a lot of the truth. We can find out a lot of the data and the facts, and we can put the pieces
Yes.
together. And just like any good detective can make a case, and then it's for the viewer to say to convict or not, is what I would say. And so we're not just delving into um, you know what would be considered maybe a cross between storytelling with what do they call that, a dramatic history, or like what are they, the work and the glory, I'm trying to think, what do they call that, where it's
Oh,
these are fictional
yeah.
characters based on real events,
Right. Right. Yeah,
and
just
so
a
the
dramatization. It's not
dramatization,
that.
that's not what we're
Yeah.
doing. We are saying, here is the data. Here is what they say about themselves. Here is what we know. This is what they do. And so, confessions, I think, should be considered heavily. you know,
Well, and we are looking at these different factions of people. Like currently, we just got a new prophet into the Mormon church. He's very interesting. The one
Mhm.
before that was my favorite. You speak about him in your book, which I read and I highly recommend you guys. I actually love his book and you got to check it out because the stuff that was happening is just bananas. I've never sat there and gone, wow, I thought I knew a lot. Wow, this is wild, and
Yeah.
you've got another one out as well. You've got a part 2 out right now as well. So
Well, we've
you guys
combined
gotta
part one
check
and
that
two
out.
together into one book. And so you just get the one invasion and it puts it all together. And I've got a lot of the details on the Alfalfa Club. I've got a list of every single member that I've been able to uncover that we have data for, that show, and it's pages and pages and pages. You got like Neil Armstrong, for goodness sake. You've got like people in like just the names will blow you away, and their influence in every aspect of society. And then nobody's talking about this organization. It's just makes no sense. I don't know why nobody else is talking about this.
But that's why I had to have you on. I was just shocked. I was actually um thought this can't be real. This name is too silly, right? And
Right, right.
I mean, Buffett signed one of the dinner things. This is what's
Yeah,
behind
Warren Buffett,
us.
yeah.
We've got these people that in a regular society, would they be friends, right? Like what you've already given examples of, like some, yeah, others, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. They're going against things they say that they didn't believe in at one time or whatever. Like you said, these things aren't
Right.
meshing with their political alignments or whatever they're going through at that
With the
time,
character that they
church.
present to the public, and I think that's an important thing. And that leads me to an example I wanna bring up, is this so-called conservative guy, Armstrong Williams. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. He's a so-called conservative talk radio host and has different publications. And he is an attendee. He's a member of the Alfalfa Club. And he actually wrote an article about the Alfalfa Club a year ago. So January of this year, just right after their last meeting. And he says that, just quoting from his article from the Baltimore Sun, he says, quote, I participated in the activities of the day at the 112th Alfalfa Club dinner, an exclusive event and in reality, the only event that the club exists for. Baloney. The event is a black tie banquet held on the final Saturday of each January. The banquet has no real purpose other than to bring together a group of devoted, patriotic Americans from the highest levels of government and business, lobbyists, business electives, and executives and elected officials, you name it. So you've got your patriotic Americans, right? You got uh, Bloomberg, you've got Warren Buffett, you've got Barack Obama. I mean, these are the types of patriotic Americans that he's talking about that attend these types of events. It's not these are the elites that are pushing us towards the New World Order. To call that patriotic Americans is insane. And then he says, quote, attending such a dinner reveals that the leaders of these political parties who publicly disparage one another almost daily do not view their relationships in the same manner as many Americans regrettably do. So he's admitting just outright that these disparaging of one another in public is a caricature that they create for the public, because that is not what they believe about themselves behind the scenes, right? They're calling this guy evil on the on CNN, and then later on that night they're chumming it up at the Alfalfa Club dinner, making plans for the world. And so we've got to get past these guys attacking each other in public. It's just like, the pre-wrestling match hype between your Hulk Hogan and your Andre the Giant, and it's they're just getting at each other's throats, and they're gonna kill each other right there, and then they but then behind, once the cameras are off, they're sitting back and drinking a beer and having a party.
Yep, exactly. I mean, are you not entertained is what I love to tell people. The more they can keep you, busy hating someone else or busy chasing something else or whatever, we have to understand what America was founded on, and we have to understand why it was founded and when it was founded, aligning with the Bavarian Illuminati, supposedly ending, and all these things that are going on at the same time in the world that everybody just says went away. Oh, great.
Right.
Wonderful story. I think that if I were in a position of power and influence and money and gain, I don't know that I would just go away. I mean, it didn't. He just went to another country and kept living it out. Like, what?
Move on.
Yeah. I mean, he lived in a castle till he died. What are we talking about here? That's crazy. I mean, nothing happened to him. Yes, they threatened them. Nothing happened to him,
No, he pled repentance, and they said, "Oh, okay, yeah, we're all good now."
He took off. Yeah, and he went and lived in a castle for real. That's the real story there. Like, and he lived till like a long time. I think he was quite old when he died, right?
And the same people that were in that formed the Jacobins. And they were behind the French Revolution, and then you have the Black Hand, and you have the Carbonari. I mean, just all these guys that we think that they went away, but it was just a name change. And we've got to stop treating these people as what they say at face value, because they're liars. As we see here with this guy admitting, because he knows that this article is not going to go viral. He knows that Sean Hannity and Glenn Beck and the Young Turks aren't going to talk about how their buddies in Republicans and Democrats are actually friends in real life, because they have to continue to promote this idea that they're at each other's throats and they hate each other, because then we will say, oh, we better vote for so-and-so because, yeah, he's not perfect, but at least he's not so-and-so. And so they have to perpetuate this fake, animosity towards each other, so that we believe it and we buy into it, and we invest our money and our time into making sure the other conspirator doesn't get elected, while we're helping the other conspirator the first conspirator get elected. And so we've got to stop, believing the Punch and Judy show that's being performed for us, and start to look at what do they say themselves behind the scenes when they don't know you're looking, and really actually understand what's going on.
Well, and I love that Old World Micmac's in the comments, and he said, no surprise, their motto is Alfalfa Lux is EST, Alfalfa is light. That's very interesting. And he also says in Arabic, this means green fodder. So that's kind of concerning, knowing that, they call our children cannon fodder. So people need to understand that. And like, really, when you're aligning with these people that you might be willing to sacrifice your sons for, because we have time and time again, our sons, our fathers, all of our paternal lines, like getting just blown up and sent to war. Like, for what? For their games. That's what this is. And that's why when you were speaking out, especially as somebody that believes still in the Mormon religion, I was
Mhm.
so grateful that you would still talk to me, because a lot of times that doesn't happen, you know?
Sure.
And it doesn't mean we align with everything, but what we do
Yeah.
align with matters. It
Right.
matters. You know, we have to be able to come together to expose the darkness in all of it, because maybe that's the point, right? Maybe that's why the religion is something I was pissed off at, because these evil people have taken it
Right.
over at a top level, which I think, goes into skull and bones. And I'll let you discuss that, because I definitely align where you do about, our past prophet. So I don't
Yeah.
know,
Well, yeah. And it's one of those things where I always like, I don't want to hurt. I'm not here to damage people's testimonies, but data is data. And so, I don't like to, I've only done a couple of shows on it where, I would say that if, your average guy that's trying to destroy testimonies would just be harping on it and trying to find every single angle and, doing all that. And I'm like, here, I felt the reason why I did bring it forward was not because I was trying to destroy people's testimonies. It was because I had to be intellectually honest. If I'm going to say George Bush is bad because X, I have to say who are other influential people that are a part of X. Otherwise, I am intellectually dishonest. I am part of a cover up, and I just can't do that. That's not honest. And
that's not who
so
you
I
are.
think it's
Yeah.
so yeah.
But
Um,
you got a lot of crap for it, just like I have. Like,
oh
as soon
sure,
as I
yeah,
started going down not just this road, but more the secret society exposing, people stopped working with me as much.
yeah,
That I don't think that's a big
oh,
surprise.
absolutely,
We've talked about this, and
yeah.
because I have no sponsors and I don't really care, uh, it makes me a little bit of a loose cannon, I guess, for them. I don't know. That I behold to no one but God. So there's that. Fun for them.
Well, there's
Uh,
controlled narratives, and they recognize that if they're going to be able to get their audience the size that they want it to be, they have to stay away from certain narratives, and that's in the XMO as well as the LDS community. It's just the
that's
way.
right. We've been persecuted in our own communities. You've been persecuted in the literal LDS community that you belong to, and I've been
Right,
persecuted in the Exmo community that I'm kind of. I mean, I'm not aligned per se, because I'm not an atheist, so I don't really fit.
right.
They want you to be like,
You got to fit in
very
their little
accepting.
narrow view.
Yeah, and I don't. And that's okay. You know what? Our narrow view of things is what gets us in trouble, because we're not paying attention to everything around us. Like, what is
Right,
happening? They're tearing down statues, and they're throwing paint on Brigham Young, and I do think he was part of it. You don't, but regardless, they're allowing that, but they don't care about this. They don't care about
right,
this.
right,
Oh, okay. Well, he was a racist. That's what they were throwing paint on the statue for.
right.
Like, I don't know what year that was, but I clearly remember it because my grandma lost her mind.
It was
And
2021 or something like that. But yeah,
yeah, and I'm just like, look, this is happening, but we're still honoring Robert E. Lee. And if you
right.
look into Robert E. Lee and what he was up to through this whole situation with the war, he was going up to Canada. I've talked to many Canadians about this. They're planting certain people in certain places, and it's very interesting, the little, legacy he left behind. So no
Yeah.
wonder they're honoring him,
Well, I think
let
that like
alone
the war between
Stanford.
the states
Yeah.
was like the Star Wars prequels. I think is basically a allegory of that war.
Well, and Stanford University, set up by not a Mormon, but she was a spiritualist. Uh-uh.
Hmm.
The Mormons branched into spiritualism. Everybody forgets about the shattering after Joseph Smith died. Like, really, this split into thousands of factions of people,
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh, growing
everywhere.
up, I thought it was RLDS versus LDS, and that was
That's me too.
yeah.
Or FLDS. That was the only other one. The
I
three.
didn't even know
That's
about
what
them
I
until
knew.
I was on my mission. I never heard of them.
And I only heard of Warren Jeffs, but that was because I was from Southern Utah. So, like,
Oh,
that
okay.
was the one I knew. So that was it. But I didn't know there were like Kingstons and like people that dress sort of normal and people. I mean, there's so many of them, right? Like, you're just like,
Right.
what? And when you start finding out that, spiritualism became a huge part of it, you talk about Robert E. Lee. Well, Robert E. Lee has ties to the people that literally funded the beginning of Stanford because it's their family. It's their
Mm.
family. And they're working with Brigham Young on the railroads. And then they suddenly die and they're super rich. And it was very strange because first her son died of typhoid. You heard me. You know the story. We're Mormon, or I'm an ex Mormon, but you know the story about Joseph Smith and typhoid. So I'm sure she felt some sort of kinship there, but
Mm.
regardless, she's part of it, just like, Skull and Bones and Jehovah's Witness is fifth cousins, the Huntington Russell whole thing. Like, that's just crazy. I mean, they're fifth cousins to Joseph Smith, and nobody talks about that. Like, I mean, what's going on here? That's a whole bunch of factions. And then we get into David M. Kennedy, who's working with the Jesuits and the dark Illuminati, which you've already mentioned. And why do I know that? Because he worked with Onassis.
Isn't David Kennedy's center at BYU, right? Is that the David? Is that the
David
Kennedy?
M. Kennedy? Yeah.
So, and guess the David M. Kennedy Center is one of three organizations that the Salt Lake Committee on Foreign Relations, a chapter of the CFR, has as an official affiliate with them. So,
oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just that another connection from the Kennedy name to the internationalists that everybody knows about.
Well, and everybody knows that there was obviously a conspiracy when we talk about President Kennedy, and you get into Permindex and who's on that board. All these people, all of them. Like, if you guys know anything about Permindex, go look it up, go check it out. You will see the names of all the different countries. We've got mobsters and like royals mixed in with like Roy Cohn.
Yeah.
Why is that happening? Like, what? With Clay Shaw, with Clay, and it all ends up back into Daddy, who ends up into a whole bunch of stuff, who ends up aligning with Onassis, who's aligning with, all of this that we're talking about. Why Howard Hughes is playing the other side. And he probably really thinks he was the good guy. They do that. Like you said, like they're doing this Bolshevik revolution on us 24 hours a day. So,
well, and there's presidents that the conspiracy apparatus, whether it's government schools, whether it's the news, every media outlet, there are presidents that they like Kennedy, like Lincoln, where they basically idolize them, and that should tell us a lot. What's his name? And so people want to claim that the conspiracy wanted them dead because they were going against them. The Corbett Report has actually done a very good video debunking that with Kennedy, that it's actually not true, that he was actually very much involved with it until his death. He was a part of turning over the United States military over to the United Nations. And he was definitely an internationalist. And so then you get into motive and why did they get him? I think that's up for debate. But I think what is, if you look at the actual data, what is not up for debate, if you look at the data, is that he was anti-establishment. He was not anti-establishment.
Well, and he was in a secret society. I mean, like, there's pictures of him, right, doing the handshake with other people. So wasn't it a Mormon?
Was that the first time you seen that video? I mean, that picture I sent you?
Yeah. I was like, wait, what? And who was that with?
David O. McKay.
But David O. McKay, that's right. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, why? This doesn't make any sense. Like, if you guys want to be like he said, like, oh, it's just the Jews or it's just the Jesuits. And I've talked to a lot of people that are in those certain factions, right? Like, okay, this guy's like a Jesuit guy and he talks about this and this guy. And you try to have these conversations with them and open it up to a broader, this is a satanic 1% weird thing. Like, of all of them, they get mad because
they get really myopic.
Yeah, they want to like, and I'm like it's the Mormons girl, but like, no, it is, but it's not. It's not your normal Mormon.
Like, there are people from every organization involved in the satanic conspiracy. That's just all there is to it.
Yes. And they're doing things that are horrific. Right now we know there's some charges out there. We're not going to get deep into that, but that there are out there. You can go to LDS Abuse to check that out. He talks a lot about this stuff, but some of these people are on some of these organizations that have been accused of some pretty horrific crimes, including George Romney, Garrett Gong. There's multiple other people, that have had like survivors come and speak out and say, look, I mean, the worst one was George Romney, and it got buried. Everybody knows that he was in trouble for stuff like that, and yet his name kind of just got shuffled under the rug there.
Oh yeah.
Mitt still was able to go ahead, you know.
Well, I hear all the time people are like, "Oh yeah, Mitt went south, but his dad was a good guy." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Well, you didn't see his hunting stuff, and you didn't read Kathy O'Brien's book, you guys. Kathy O'Brien's book will open your eyes to old George, and this goes from like, more conspiracy people. Like this goes into other hunting, like, see, we already talked about this, but for those late tuning in, secret hunting organization, like hunting. I'm like, well, okay. Like you should probably be definitely concerned about them. Like we
Yeah.
love animals so much we want to go kill them. Okay, whatever. And then we get into processed church people that are aligned with like Charles Manson, but still also weird Mormons. Like we're gonna say Mormons because they're not the normal Mormons. Like I don't
And
know.
their connection
What do
to
you
the Best
call them?
Friends Animal Society. Have you heard about that?
Oh my gosh, I have. Oh my gosh.
So
But
that
you should
is
tell
not a
people what
no-kill animal shelter, in my opinion. I think that's it's a CYA, but I think the data is
Yes.
very clear that is not what it appears to be on the surface.
Well, and if you go to those ties, like Dana does a lot on this, on her channel about all that, and I'm
Yeah,
just like shocked.
yeah,
I was shocked when I was like, wait, whoa, what's happening over here in southern Utah? Why are they doing weirdo satanic stuff over here?
right.
Who was what's
Oh, and the
happening? Like
security
you
around this animal shelter's insane.
yeah, yeah. And
It's
then let alone what's his name? Levitt gets on TV and says, I am not I do not eat human beings. Like,
oh, David, yeah, yeah. Like what? Like
what? Excuse me? What did you
this thing
say?
wasn't even made public. Like nobody knew about it except for him and people in the law enforcement community. And so he comes out and like tells on himself. It's bizarre.
It was weird. And nobody asked him. It was almost like he had like a download of a
Yeah.
voice that said something to him because I was like, bro, nobody asked you. Why are you saying that?
And it could have been, I think that there's legitimate
Voice. Yeah,
claim that it
voice.
could have been a humiliation ritual where it was kind of like him moving his way up. Because what happened to him? Nothing. He's out. He bought a castle in Scotland, and
Right.
I know this is maybe a tangent from what we're talking about, but
That's
but
okay. I like
with
it.
the David Levitt connection that is bizarre is this guy that they just convicted of rape. I'm having a blank on his name, but it was the guy that was actually making all of the documented claims against David Levitt.
Oh. Oh,
And so
wow.
to protect himself, he changes his name and he moves to Scotland. And then as soon as this stuff comes out, now they get a warrant to arrest this guy and and accuse him of rape and then extradite him from Scotland to the United States. And where does Levitt go? He goes to Scotland. Like it's just all these weird connections that
Mm.
make no sense on the surface. But if this is actually a way to just shut up one of his accusers, then it makes a whole lot
Right.
more sense.
Oh, 100%. And they do this. They protect their brothers.
Yeah.
That's the problem with secret societies. It's not just the one. It's not just this one or the hunting clubs or the process church or Skull and Bones or whatever. It's
Mhm.
why they are all overtaking the world and everybody's just at home watching TV and eating ice cream or whatever the heck we're doing. Look, I like ice cream too, but I'm just saying we have to pay attention because nobody's paying attention.
Right.
This is serious. Like I always joke around and it's sort of not a joke. And I'm not saying every Freemason is bad, but I always say it's United States of Freemasonry, right?
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean all those factions are bad. Like you've got porch masons, just like I call them porch Mormons, because
Right.
you have all these normal people that have to be involved to hide the top weirdness. Or like on Thursday meeting, when they go do their weirdo stuff, wherever they go, it's not going to be hidden. It's hidden
I think
easy if
of
everybody's
those more
going.
mainstream and more open type of secret societies, that's accurate. But I think with the Alfalfa Club and with Skull and Bones and with the Bohemian Grove, that is absolutely not true. That is my view is that every single one of them, you don't get into that position unless you are a part of that evil level.
Right. That's
And so
different. Yeah.
that's a
No, you're
different
right. These
thing.
are secret elect. This is like
Right.
an elect group because, like you
Especially
said,
the ones that are invitation only are a little bit different than the ones that anybody can go find a sponsor for and become a member of.
right. Yeah. We're not talking about regular people like where Skull and Bones, you have to be tapped. This club, you have to be asked. Like, this is not
Your
something you
neighbor's
just
not a
willy
member of
nilly.
Alfalfa Club, and if they are, I would get some security.
I would move. You should be very concerned. Oh my gosh. And if you know, you should probably fear for your life because I don't think you're supposed to know, right? That's the quiet part out loud. That's why I'm
So it's
surprised they let it out who's in, kind of like the
well,
Bilderbergs.
so and that is a weird thing, and I think that in some people will say, well, that's proof that it's not bad or it's not secret. And I in our last interview that we did, I brought up in the Book of Mormon, there is a person that's a head of the Gadianton Robbers, the secret society of the Book of Mormon, and he's like, yeah, I'm the head of this. And so that doesn't mean that the Gadianton Robbers were good guys. That doesn't mean that they weren't a secret combination. It just says that sometimes they do say who they are, and they just don't broadcast it to the world. They don't, what does what is CNN, what is Fox News, what are the talking heads on the radio, what are they focused on is the division, is the wrestling match that they want us to focus on, because and then they can let out these types of admissions. And what it's for, I think, I don't have any documentation of where they've admitted what it's for, but I suspect it's kind of twofold, where there is some kind of eternal law where they have to let us know who they are so that we can do something about it. I think that's part of it. And then you have another part of it that is likely they are signaling to their buddies who they are and what's going on. And so you have kind of those different aspects of it. But having confessions hidden here and there doesn't negate the fact of what they are. And I think it's
Right.
for us to recognize that. Otherwise, there is no secret society that's evil. They're all on the up and up because we can find documentation about them, which is just
Right.
that's just as silly as saying that murder doesn't exist because people confess to being a murderer. I mean, it's just it's not.
Yeah, that's a little bit much. I just think that when we look at this stuff and we can clearly see it infiltrate in every single faction at every single level, and then we
Mhm.
have to look at some things that happened this year. We all of a sudden got a new pope from where? Chicago,
Chicago,
right? And then where's the prophet from? New
Chicago.
prophet. Where's he from? Well, he's from here, but where'd he go and set his roots? Chicago. And then we talk about another secret society, which I can't prove that he was in, but I can prove that it was there when he was there, which is Alan Snake. Isn't that funny? No documentation other than their logo. That's all I can find. That's all I
Yep.
can find. And I'm going, that seems convenient.
Yeah.
I mean, all of this stuff, when you look at it and tear it down, like Onassis, I did a huge deep dive. I haven't like completely laid it all out yet because I bit off more than I'll admit it. I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I will 100% admit that, because this book right here is just the FBI documents on Aristotle Onassis. Okay. So this is why that episode isn't out. But guess who never lost a ship during the war? Oh, lost the flowers. Guess who never lost a ship ever?
Wow.
Aristotle Onassis. And who did he fly under? He didn't fly under Greece. He went to South America. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? Oh, well, there's reasons for the things they do. That's
Yep.
that's period. When you start digging into this stuff, and you'll find things like you said here and there, it's not like they're advertising. It's like every once in a while you'll hit some weird little document and you're like, what is it? What does that say? Why would they put that out there? They have
Right.
to. They have to tell you what they're doing. It's called revelation of the method. And in the magical world, in the Kabbalah system, in all of this, you have to understand that they have to sometimes tell you what they're up to, which
Yep.
sucks for them. I mean, it's great for me and you,
Well, it's
I
a great
don't
for
know.
everybody because we need to know. We can't fix the problem if we don't know what the problem is. And so it's vital for us to be able to get this information. And so it's one of those things. And I talked about the biography of the Alfalfa Club. It's not available anywhere, but we're going to be solving that. Where in the next few months, we're actually going to be publishing it at treeoflibertysociety.com. Right now, it's available in our member portal as a thank you for our supporters.
Awesome.
And so you can download and read it. And so it's important for us to do this. I think it's really, but we're going to make it more widely available. We want to make it so it's not just, a secret again. We want to make this so everybody has access to it, so we can study and we can learn and we can know what it is from themselves, what their plans are, because what they say about themselves is wild. And, it's like, to me, we think of what did the people like, presidents of the United States that are members of Skull and Bones do? What did they do when they initiated in Skull and Bones? What do these people like your George Bushes, your Newt Gingriches, your Nixons, your Reagans, what did they do at the Bohemian Grove? And nobody talks about these guys and their bizarre satanic rituals. And we're like, these are the people that are going to tell us what I'm allowed to do with my business. These guys are the ones that are going to tell us if my child goes off to war and gets killed for the New World Order. These are the, it's if we understand what these people are all about, we're not going to obey them. It's nonsense. And so why is nobody talking about the weird beliefs of these Republicans and Democrats that are a part of the Alfalfa Club? I want to just as a way to be able to kind of show you what they're actually believing about themselves. I'm going to read to you just out of their own biography. It says that when Babylon was invaded by the Semites, which is placed as far back as 5000 BC, it was really for the purpose of acquiring the archives of the Alfalfa Club, which they knew contained such secrets as would give them the power they desired. Okay, this is what they believe about themselves.
And this was not supposed to be seen, right? Yeah, you found this. Yeah, you found this information. This was not meant for regular people's eyes.
It's not public consumption information. This is what they wrote to themselves about themselves. They wanted to let their members know what they're doing is so important. It builds dedication. It builds, all of the things that it builds that brotherhood. It builds that bond. And so when you see that, you have Laura Ingraham, a Republican, she's a conservative talking head. She's an attendee of this organization. She's a member of this. I mean, come on. We've got to start to look past what people tell us and say, hey, what's really going on here? And I don't want to black pill people, because to me, black pilling is a tool of the conspiracy to get us to give up. But we have to recognize that people are lying to us, and that we have to ask ourselves, is this cabal going to allow their enemies to be popular on their own networks that they control? Are they going, people say, well, so-and-so, you just think everybody's bad. I'm like, no, you're just mentioning well-known people. If people that are well-known and they're promoted by the conspiracy, do you think the conspiracy is going to promote? No. There's this great video actually that I like, that I think kind of shows this point, that the Daily Show did actually, where it was going over the 2008 election, and how when Ron Paul was in second and third place, they never mentioned him. They just skipped over him. And, I've got my questions about Ron Paul, but I think that's a great example of how the conspiracy works. What do? They shadow ban you. They don't give you free ads on all of their, networks. They don't, smear you. Smears help you grow. Please smear me CNN, I'll get huge. But so we have to start recognizing how the tactics the conspiracy uses, and so that we stop falling for it. That's the gist of it.
And the thing is when you brought up, the CFR, okay, at the same time, the CFR was known by a slippage. Okay. One of the most famous Mormons in Utah, right? He goes and gives a speech. And I guess he felt comfy. This was via you that I learned this, right? It was Huntsman, right? Wasn't it? Was he giving a speech?
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's giving a speech and feeling comfy about that. At the same time, Huntsman is doing crap like this and the Council of Foreign Relations. Over here, we have Bill Gay is what he's known as.
Yep.
Actually amping up Howard Hughes to be no communists, no black people, no communists, no communist. Okay. So this doesn't jive together. Okay. Because one person is fighting for one thing, but then what happens? Huntsman and Gay, combine HGCC. And why would that even work? I mean, they're telling you the quiet part out loud when you watch the money just ching, 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 ching. Watch the money. Two people do not join forces in a corporation with money, because money is worth killing people over, not for me, but
Right.
like for these people,
Yeah.
allegedly. But you know, you wouldn't have Howard Hughes being chummy with anybody on the CFR if it were real world.
Right.
What's going on? Right.
Oh, there's a great book that I would recommend everybody read called The Perestroika Deception, where this guy that left the Soviet Union, he defected from the Soviet Union, writes this book that, of course, nobody talks about, and it says what perestroika was about. So if you're around in the 80s, I was too young at the time to know what was going on, so I had to read it and know what happened in the past. But it was about how the goal, and this was going back, we're talking about, Whittaker Chambers in the 50s is having this testified before Congress that the goal is not really global communism, but it was the boogeyman, but the fight back in the day of the Cold War. It was really, and all these books pointed out, and the Perestroika Deception about what Gorbachev was doing to pretend to westernize, it was a part of the goal was to make the Soviet Union more capitalistic, and then America more communistic, so you can merge the two together comfortably. It wasn't about, and so we have this basically a Chinese, what the Chinese government is doing right now is basically what they want for the whole world, because they've recognized that if they can get people to be fat, dumb, and happy, then they can put over any kind of slavery they want. But if it is Stalinistic, total, tyranny, then people are going to resist and fight back. And so it's this comfortable merger where you've got enough wealth that you can be happy, but they have enough power where you're afraid to stand up against them, because then you lose your home, your job, all those things that make your life comfortable. And so that's really what it's always been about. And so when we think that, people always say, well, why would a rich guy like Rockefeller fund the communists? Well, because it helped feed that, basically that Punch and Judy show, that fake WWF wrestling match. And it
always have to fund both sides. Yeah. Yeah. And people were screaming out. Like, I will say again, LDS Abuse points out, and I bought the book and I read it. John A. Witso talks about In a Sunlit Land. And I bought this book and I actually felt awful for him, because he was trying to say, it seems to me that there's a conspiracy to overthrow Mormonism, like the true heart of the people. I think he was I mean, look, I'm not throwing every Mormon person ever under the bus, nor will I ever say all of them are bad, because I got nailed on that just barely, not very long ago on a live, and I won't do it, because you don't know those people's hearts. What we do know is that the top people are probably mostly corrupt at this point. They were going corrupt clear back when John A. Witso wrote this in the 1900s, and he said, I would be better off being a garbage man than a teacher here. Okay. And I think he was trying to say, I'm very uncomfortable because there seems to be a conspiracy happening. And he wrote this in a book, and I'm sure they just, oh my gosh, I can't.
Yeah, nobody's read that.
It. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he was trying. He really legitimately, there's some good ones is what I'm saying. Along the way, there's been some good ones that were like, hey, and you'll see it with the prophets, right? Look at the ones that they were like, now we're not Mormons anymore because he's a kook, and crazy stuff. Like, that's what that was about, because Ezra Taft Benson, though I think he started, I don't know, he's an enigma, but I do think he tried a little bit. Okay. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard.
They're all in political, they get risen to political, things. There's a whole book called Mormons and the Presidents. I would recommend people read that. I couldn't believe the ties, because ever since I was a little girl, all I knew is they oppressed us. They oppressed us. They oppressed. That's all you ever hear. So you just grow up thinking they're all bad and this is bad, basically. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know about you, but that's, we have to be on our own and not in the world, like be of it, but not in it. And they
Mhm.
tell us this as little kids. So part of you has to step back and go, okay, but well, what's going on with that then? Like, wait a minute. Why are you all in the CIA now? Why are you, as I've been nicely accused of lately? Look, if I was in some 3-letter agency, they certainly wouldn't let me be spouting off like this. And anyways, there's
Or
very
you'd
few
have at least more
people.
subscribers.
Right. And there's very few people that would even do this, right?
Right.
Like we're kind of putting our ass on the line here. And I'm just going to say that we
Yeah.
live in the belly of the beast here and it's not comfy. Okay. That's not a comfortable place to be as a believer or a non believer. Far worse for me, but that's my own thing. But I mean, seriously, like you would never want to do that because it's a very conformist state. Okay. It is. And so if you do push against the grain like you're doing, like, hey, I believe in all of this, but this got like, the Gadianton robbers came in and hey, we need to be paying attention. They don't
Mhm.
like that. Why would they not like that if you're trying to save their church? Why would they not like that?
Good question.
Good
Yeah.
question. Why would they have a skull and bones prophet?
And when it's brought up and when it's asked them why, and they, instead of saying, this is why, they tell you to shut up.
And why the best one that I ever heard from you, and it is from you and anybody that hears this and has heard me talk about it before. Why would God be allowed to bring the Federal Reserve here through Heber J. Grant?
Oh, through every grant. Yeah.
Yeah. Why would that even happen? Why would that be allowed to have a prophet of God bring in something that we've been told to abstain from, not to be involved with their money, which the FLDS does to this day, right? Like bleeding the beast and all the things and like don't
Oh,
trust them. And granted, a lot of them are corrupt now too. But I'm
sure.
just saying the reason why they split off, right? Like,
Sure.
oh,
Yeah.
like, okay. And so why would that happen? You know? Hmm, weird.
Yeah.
It's not a comfortable place to be. That's for sure. I think you probably said it the best, and I know it comes from the Book of Mormon, so they're gonna nail me for this but secret combinations, it just makes the most sense. Like honestly,
Well, what do you
like
call it? Your
that.
combination, conspiracy, two or more people getting together in secret to do evil. That's the definition. If you don't believe that that's real, what am I going to do? I mean, that's just stupid.
Right. Knock your head against a wall. You can't just keep we can tell who wants to learn, but like you said, we can't black pill because it doesn't work. It just doesn't work.
Well, it's not
We can
good.
present it. Yeah,
We
we
want
can
to.
present it. That's it.
There's a solution. There's something to be done. And black pilling just says there's nothing to be done but wait for it to collapse. I'm not
No.
a rapture cultist. I'm not the guy from, I don't know where you're at on this, but like with the Left Behind series, that's, to me, that's stuff
Oh, I hope
that was
not.
created
Yeah.
to get Christians to stop in being engaged in the battle for freedom. And because
Yes.
they think that, well, the worse things get, that means the savior's coming sooner. And so let's not resist at all and make sure that things,
Well,
the tracks are skidded for the return of the savior, because wickedness equals the return of Jesus. And I don't believe that at all.
that's the Zabbatai Zevi movement, right? That's the Zabbatian
Yeah.
movement of 1666, which is funny enough, another year. Well, that's when one of Joseph's great great grandpas was born. So it always makes me giggle. Samuel Smith was born that year.
Oh.
And, he was born in Salem. They're from Salem. They were very,
Mhm.
up in society people there, which people don't even know that. But he didn't have anything to do with that movement. It just triggers my mind for that. But when people
Right.
study this movement, the Zabbatai Zevi movement, they will understand because people always say, like my poor mom, she always says, how could people be so evil? Why would they want to do that? Right? They think they're doing you a service. They
Mhm.
believe that they are going to bring the savior, like he said, back quicker if they do all manner of horrible satanic stuff,
Right.
including abusing their own children, and I mean, we see it time and time again,
Well, and the
whether
infiltration in the Christian church of that idea was in the 1830s with John Darby, and he was the one that really in Scotland that really got the ball rolling. Schofield Bible, all that kind of stuff to get people into this rapture
And who
nonsense.
financed that? Who
Yep.
financed the Schofield Bible? Do you know?
I don't off the top
The
of my head.
Crown. The
Oh,
Crown.
there you go.
So they're always behind a lot of things, not
Yep.
everything, because I think they are literally the shield, the
Right.
red shield. That's what their
Red
name
shield.
means. Yeah, it's not even their name. It's not their name. It's so funny because everybody's like, and they're Jewish. I'm like, well, I have news for you all. I am directly in their lineage, and no, they're not, because I'm not.
Oh, you just
So
admitted it. We got it
sorry.
on tape. You're a Rothschild.
Yeah, no, I do. I come from the Medici line. I come from they know my messed up line. It's yucky. I come from the
That's
House of Stuart. Yeah.
Oh, me too. That's funny.
Oh, so we're probably related.
We're
Yep.
related
Through
somewhere. You know, they would say like, everybody's related probably 13 generations back, just roughly as we're.
well, especially here, especially in Utah.
And that's the thing too,
Yeah.
is, you know, a lot of times, you know, there is connections, you have family and that kind of stuff. But I think it's important to state that just because you're related to somebody that's bad doesn't mean you're bad. My brother is an atheistic communist, you know, that kind of well, I don't want to, I'm overgeneralizing, but he is definitely in that direction compared to me. And so we can even be siblings and be completely different.
Oh, I'm 100% different from my siblings, so I get that completely. And you know, that's okay. We can all be different and still open our eyes to the same crap because
Absolutely.
we have to align. Me and you are very different, but we get along and we talk about things that are like, oh, this is pertinent. We're not going to talk about the things that we don't need to talk about, right? I'm not going to be like, hey, Ben, let's talk about all this bad stuff in the temple. Like, I'm not having that conversation with you. Like, that's weird. Why would I make you feel weird? Like, no, I'm not doing that. That's weird. I can have my thoughts and you can have your thoughts. And these people over here that, you know, are part of whatever society that they're in can have, and the atheists and just everybody. But one thing's for sure, if you love your kids and you want to have a better world to live in, you better start listening because this is getting out of control. Children cannot afford to leave their parents anymore. People cannot buy homes anymore. Period.
By design. This isn't by accident.
Yes. And I agree with Jesus loves you guys because we are both Christians. So that is absolutely true. 100%. So
that's going to get people upset.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm sorry. I don't think Ben's not a Christian. Like, I'm not going to ever do that. You cannot generalize a populace just because of one certain thing. Like, that's not fair. That's not fair.
I've said this our last time that we talked was the same thing about Mormons and how, you know, they don't want, well, A, they don't want to use that term anymore. And B, you know, if you're a different faction of Mormon, you're not a Mormon, you know? And so you have all kinds of nonsense amongst every denomination. They have this gatekeeping of only these people are Christians, only these people are Mormons. And
they do it on purpose because the factions within the factions within the factions. And if you start looking, look at the Quakers. Go look at the Quakers and see how they started versus where they are now. Go see who they align with. Like, let's be real. I'm just picking on I'm just picking a random out of the air. Okay. They're just kind of random, but they show up in the CIA just as much as the Mormons do. And they're certainly aligned.
I've never heard anybody calling saying the Quakers aren't Christians. Maybe there are, but
well, I'm not talking about,
Cameron,
not that part.
I know Kirk Cameron's in a lot of trouble recently among Christians.
And I mean, just about like them saying where the Quakers are kind of benevolent and innocent and the Amish and, you know, like, no, you need to go read history books. I don't mean online all the time. Go get a book, get books like what Ben's talking about. He's said about 6 books on here, and I'm sure on his website, he's got all kinds of information for you guys. He does, you know, webinars, he does all kinds of stuff. Like, this is not like a one and done thing. We're probably going to talk again, I hope. And, you know, he has all this stuff lined out for you guys to have like a whole learning course if you want, and his book as well, which I highly recommend. I read. So, you know, I will never put a person up here or take a sponsor that I don't actually and promote their stuff if I don't agree, or I'll say this is their book, but it's not my opinion. I read his book. It's my opinion. it aligns. And I just don't care anymore about who that's going to get us in trouble with. Right. Like, what? How much worse can it be for either one of us? We're both on the outskirts. I mean, nobody really accepts us in there. So who cares? I don't
Certain
care.
tables I wasn't meant to sit at, you know?
Right. Especially not the Alfalfa Club table. So did we miss any highlights there? Any other
I think
fun,
those are good
juicy
highlights.
bits?
I think it shows what it's about. And, you know, if I'm hoping that people that watch this will share it, because why is nobody else talking about this? I think that's just needs to be, we need to fix that, because it makes no sense. And
No.
if you can explain to me why nobody else is talking about it, you're like, well, yeah, it's because I'm all ears, because to me it makes no sense. If you're talking about the Bohemian Grove, you're talking about Skull and Bones, you're talking about CFR, you're talking about Build-A-Burgers, but you're not talking about the Alfalfa Club, I don't
You
understand
missed it. You missed it. Yeah, you're missing something. And they hope you do. And they
Yeah.
hope you do. And so I'm sure when you look, because you've got the list, and he's got this available for, if you go subscribe to his website, you could go see the whole thing and buy his book. It's in there. Like, he's
Yep.
got this in places. We're not doing that on here. That would be weird. All the way around. We'll mention a few names here and there, but neither one of
If
us
you
wanna
email
be.
me, I'll send you the file. How about that? You know,
There you go.
we're not going to gatekeep. Just send me your email, ben@treeoflibertyside.com, and
There
I'll
you
send
go.
you the file. We're not going to hide it. We're not going to gatekeep it. But I do like to give thank yous for those that support our work and make sure that we can keep doing this, because if we didn't get that support, we couldn't exist. It's just the
Right.
truth of the matter.
That's the way life it goes. But when you were looking at that list of people, okay, what did you see? I bet religion wasn't always in common. I bet they were different as
Oh,
different can be.
parties were always different. I mean, it was a good mix of Democrats, Republicans.
Mhm.
You know, positions in authority, very different. Academia, I mean, different businesses, competing businesses, right? You have banks that are supposed to be in competition with each other. Baloney. You have all of these things that they pretend to be in competition, whether it's in political competition or business competition. They are monopolists 100%, but they're in the monopoly. And so they're allowed to have their different, shops within their monopoly.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all a big club. They're all in it, even
Yep.
when they pretend like they're not. I think the best allegory there is your world wrestling,
Yeah.
WWF, as we called it when we were young. I don't think it's that anymore, but
The
it's
World
it's
Wildlife
all a
Fund
big
Foundation
show.
is gonna get mad at me.
Yeah, it's all a big show, and it's a little bit silly. So for those of you that just came in, I want to just recap really quick. We're talking about the Alfalfa Club. It is a very small, very secret society that has some of the most influential people that you would be surprised on
Mhm.
this list. Of very few people, 200 people, he said. You cannot join. Don't think you can go ask and knock on the door of the Alfalfa Club. They don't want you. This is a pharaoh society that practices magic. They practice the ancient rites, Babylonian magic. It always
Yep.
goes back to Babylon, doesn't it? Isn't that
Absolutely.
funny? Why is
I
that?
I was trying to show the PDF. Let's see if that doesn't work again.
Oh, yeah. You can share screen too.
Okay, wrong. Whoops. Oh, that's why I did the wrong thing. Okay. How
Yeah,
about
it
now?
would be
There we
great.
go. Okay.
There we
So
go. There we go.
this is a scan of the book. I'm not making it up. This isn't just,
Nope.
this is the legit, what's going on with the Alfalfa Club. This is their biography, and being able to find the scan. And if you look into who H. Ralph Burton was, then you'll start to say, oh, okay, this isn't just, somebody just making up stuff for kicks and giggles. It's
Mm.
legit.
Well, you guys better check this stuff out, because if we don't come together, we're always going to be fighting this Bolshevik revolution. And don't forget, they fund both sides.
Yep.
They love it when we fight, right? Let's fight
Yep.
some more about color and, religion and whatever. Okay. It's all baloney, because they know there's more of us than them. And they know if we actually stood up, they might have a real big problem. So, and not in a violence way. I'm just talking about taking our own authority back, of course. So, yeah, Ben, anything else you want to recap before
Encourage
we
folks
go?
to go to treeoflibertysociety.com, sign up for our text alert, so that way, we're being shadow banned and our emails go into the the junk mail. And so if you're getting the text alerts, go ahead and then you'll be getting notified when we have new videos, new articles. Become a part of what we're doing. We just last Monday, every Monday night we do a live training for members. And last Monday we went into the history of false or controlled opposition. And so just showing you how far back it goes. We're talking thousands of years, the principle of how it's used. And so we go into detail into these principles so that we can be better prepared to do what it takes to be, like you said, take the power back to ourselves and to be able to really resist what's going on and do something about it. So follow up with action programs. And so encourage you to be if you like the principles of liberty and you want to stand up to the New World Order, please come by and become a member of the Tree of Liberty Society.
Wonderful. I definitely recommend, like I said, his book. You got to check that out. One of the best things that ever happened to me was I found you scrolling about Romney. That was how I found you. And so, it's not as hidden as one might think, but it took a lot of digging. It was like about 10 searches in, really, honestly. And so that just frustrates me. I just feel like data is data. And we cannot argue about data. We have to understand that is a non-biased tool for you to understand the game. It's like the instructions for the game. And banking records as well are like the instruction for the game, because you don't understand. Like if you don't see the whole picture, you're always going to be lost fighting a non-winnable battle. Like that's not where we want to be. We want to
you play their game.
Advance.
You think they're going to let you win? I mean, come on.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. That's for sure. I hate to be so blunt, and it is what it is, but I just I love what I thought America was before I knew what America was. And that is sad to me. That actually makes me sick, because I remember being a little kid and standing up and thinking, when I did the pledge or whatever, feeling so patriotic. And now I feel like sad. I know that's terrible, but it just, I don't know what else to say there. We have to remember what we deserve. And that is definitely freedom. And this isn't that. They are driving us into the ground right now and trying to make us as poor as possible. So you can't even, how that comment is, you're so poor, you can't even pay attention.
Oh, absolutely.
Welcome to your 15-minute city plan. Yeah, that's sad. I don't want to be there. I don't like that. And I'm just a contrarian and was kind of born that way. So.
Well, that's something I like, is that I don't want to be the most informed person in the concentration camp.
That's right. That does us no good. Yeah, that does us no good.
I don't want to be in there with you saying, I told you so. We've got to start doing something about it is the key.
Yes. Yep. And it's not one side or the other. Like people are saying, it's the Democrats, it's this, it's that. No, no, it's all of them, because they all go to this dinner and they're buddies. And it's not one side or the other, not just this one. There's so many things, but we won't get into that. It's not a red versus blue. It honestly is evil versus not. That's what this is. And as Ben has so gracefully put it multiple times, this is a satanic conspiracy.
Yep.
And so I for one, I don't want to align with Satan. Like that's not for me. So
call me crazy,
but I know he does a lot of things for people. Do you see what it looks like on the other side? It's not good. But yeah, anyway. And it doesn't mean that I don't have, Ben and I can definitely tell you, we have very traditional values. Like we were raised Mormon, like very traditional values. I'm definitely no blue aligned person. Like that just doesn't fit me.
Oh, right. Yeah. This is, yeah. I'm not like going on Mitt Romney because I think that the Democrats are better. That's no.
No way. And actually, Joe Biden, isn't he a part of this club as well?
Yep.
Speaking of, so it's all of them. It's both. It's like Democrats and Republicans. It's all of them.
Trump's daughter was there. It's like,
very interesting. Mm. Well, I have one last question. Do you see any way that they recruit certain people? Do they go into, you know, like other schools or any of that stuff, like to find these
So,
people?
well,
Like,
with these things, with the conspiracy, because just like with Skull and Bones, so you just have like an adult version of that type of an idea. They look at individuals, their family, what's their history, what is the potential for them to serve the agenda of that organization. And so as an
okay.
adult, to be considered for things like the Alfalfa Club or the Bohemian Club, they have to say, okay, can you bring us success? And because you've been successful in academia, you've been successful in business, you've been successful in government, then because you've proven that you can be of service to the conspiracy, then they'll recruit you. And so um, so you have that aspect of it, but then you do have another aspect of it where, because of who you are, then they invite you in and they prop you up. And so you have
Mm.
those two angles to it.
Is it very familial? Like, is it usually down family lines
And you
or
do have a
is it all
lot of
over?
that. I mean, but it's not always.
Not
I mean,
per se.
like, Obama's mom and dad were not a part of the Alfalfa Club.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah.
It seemed very strange. I did a little looking into Obama's dad. He has some
Which
very
one?
interesting more the grandpa actually, I guess it
Oh, on
was.
the mom's side.
Uh-huh. He has some very interesting Mormon ties. Did you know
Oh,
that?
I didn't know that. Interesting.
I didn't know that either. I decided to look him up because somebody said something about him being a little strange, and I thought, huh, he
Well, it's
looks
definitely
like one.
strange.
You
Nothing.
know
No.
how yeah, you can see like sometimes people look Mormon. I know that sounds weird, but there was a lot of inbreeding at the beginning. Like, I'm sorry, it just was what it was. He looked Mormon to me, and I
Uh-huh.
said, I wonder, and I went into my own genealogy and found him, and I was like, yep, there you are.
Oh,
Wow.
funny.
Yep. It was pretty easy find. It was interesting. So I just think that, people need to look about Jekyll Island. People need to look about the Federal Reserve. People need to look about this. They need to look at all of it. Like,
Mm.
we really need to look at who sold our country down the river.
Yep.
That's the truth. Sorry to say, guys. So once again, thank you so much to Ben. We're going to sign off here. I appreciate everyone watching. It was just a last minute live stream. We
Yeah.
weren't sure, but we just decided to go for it. So it was fun.
I appreciate the time.
Thanks again. Bye, you guys. See you next time.